Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Freelance Friday. Today I'm talking about pricing your products and your services. I do just have to say that I recorded a whole podcast episode that went really in depth on this topic, but I'm just gonna give you kind of like the 101 and how I decide what to charge for my social media management services, for my courses, and any other kind of service that I do. This includes like sponsorships from an influencer's perspective for my YouTube channel and my Instagram and things like that. So first thing I have to say about pricing is that a lot of people tend to think of these things as like one-off projects, you know, oh, a sponsor wants to pay me $100 to do a product placement in a video. And that sounds good. Like $100, an extra $100 in my pocket always sounds good, right? But what I want you guys to start doing is thinking about things big picture, thinking about longevity and, you know, just long-term relationships with people, because $100 is gonna help you right now, but it's not gonna help you in the long term. It's not gonna help you foster a relationship with this company long term necessarily. I mean, you're the best judge of that, but really what I want you to start thinking about is what do you want your annual income to be? And you can combine this with, you know, your job or any other forms of income that you have. Think of a number in your head. Let's just say it's $100,000 a year. That's what I want to make. So what you need to do is divide that number by 12 and then divide that by however much you're thinking of charging for your services to determine the number of clients or projects that you need to take each month. There's a really cool calculator on this journalist website that I randomly stumbled upon. I'll be sure to link that down below. And this calculator is really cool too because it factors in your expenses. So obviously, as you know, like $100,000 a year, you gotta take into account like any office space, any internet access, any computers, any equipment, all that kind of stuff is going to go against your salary that you're giving yourself. So let's just say, for example, $100,000, let's take out $20,000 just in expenses. So let's just say we need to make $120,000 to include all of our expenses and things like that. Divide that number by 12, so that's $10,000. So you need to make $10,000 every month to sustain that annual income. So let's say I'm thinking of charging $1,000 for social media management plans every month. So that means I need 10 clients at $1,000 a month. Now it's cool because you can really play around with that number. $10,000 divided by, let's say, 1,200 is only 8.5 roughly. So just by tweaking those numbers by $100, $200, $300, whatever. And again, all of these numbers are totally just like off the top of my head. They're not real pricing or real incomes or anything like that. But if I wanted to make that amount of money, I could just move my price up $200 and be able to get rid of 2 clients a month, which, you know, doesn't sound like a lot, but 8 clients versus 10 clients is a huge difference in workload, in, you know, everything, and potentially freelancers that you're gonna have to hire or staff that you're gonna have to pay. So that's really how I determine what I charge, is I just think of like, okay, this is how much and really like not even how much I want to make, but how much do I need to make? How much are my bills like to sustain my lifestyle and to pay my rent and do all that stuff? And then I kind of think, okay, and then what would I want to do this year? Or where do I want to travel? What do I, you know? And then that's really how we price things out. I mean, it's really that simple. I don't know. Again, go on this website. It's really cool. And then I always say this for like, I feel like I say this in every video, but don't forget to save money for taxes. Obviously, just because you're making $10,000 a month or whatever this fictional character that I'm talking about is making, that obviously doesn't mean that they can just spend all that willy-nilly. Obviously, you need to save at least like 30, I recommend saving like 30 and 40% of your income for taxes. So really they're gonna be walking away with like $5,000, $6,000. I also get a lot of questions about working on like hourly basis versus project basis and things like that. So I always recommend, for the most part, getting paid by project because hourly just gets really messy. One, it's unpredictable. So you can't really make that same formula with an hourly client because you don't necessarily know how many hours you're working unless you guys have an agreement like you're gonna work exactly 10 hours a week. But in my experience, I've done that before and I always end up either working more or working less because I'm very efficient, which when it comes to hourly work isn't necessarily the best because I can, like, if I need to get something done in an hour, I usually can. That's just how I am. I can go really hard. But I don't think it's fair to like penalize somebody for being efficient. Do you know what I mean? So I usually just try to go for a project rate, telling them, you know, I don't like to charge hourly because it's hard for me to project income. What is that doing for them? Do you know what I mean? So make sure that you explain what the benefit of it is to them as well. And what I usually discuss is that, you know, especially in the beginning of a relationship, I'm kind of working around the clock for you. I'm doing a lot of research, I'm doing a lot of planning, a lot of content creation. So if I were to charge hourly for that, it would probably be a lot, you know? And also I like to explain to them that I kind of work until the job gets done. Like, I'm not just there to collect my paycheck and clock in and clock out. Another thing about that is that sometimes the lines can get sort of blurred when you're working hourly. And I've had clients really start to sort of treat me like an employee when I'm working hourly. Like, I have to be available during certain hours, and I think that's not really allowed, to be honest with you. I'm not really sure. I'm not the law, so don't ask me. Things can just get a little bit weird, and I think working by project really ensures that you're being treated like a vendor, like a contractor, like a freelancer, and you don't really get in that weird position of like being a kind of employee but not really. I also think that when it comes to pricing, another thing that people ask me about a lot is like, okay, well, how do you stay competitive? And that is a good question, and I do definitely look at the competition, not because I want to copy them or anything like that, but just to get sort of like a benchmark of what the average rate is for whatever service I'm offering, or like courses, for example. I look at a lot of different courses to see if I'm charging myself too little, if I'm charging myself too much. I definitely look to benchmark, but you always, at the end of the day, want to stay true to what you need, because if you don't charge what you need, you're gonna end up sort of slacking for your client because you're gonna be feeling kind of resentful and you're not gonna be able to pay your bills. So of course you're not gonna do a good job if you're not, you know, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of need and things like that. I kind of relate that to this in some strange way. Like, you know, you need to be fed, you need to be clothed, you need to take care of your immediate needs before you can really do anything for other people. So make sure that you're taken care of. If the competition is charging, you know, $500 and you're charging $5,000, okay, maybe you need to bring it down a little bit. But if it's kind of within the same ballpark, I say do you, and at least offer your rate. You know, there's always room for negotiation in business. So I think it's good to know what the competition is charging. And if you are charging a lot more than the competition, you need to be prepared to answer those questions. Like, what do you do that they don't? I also like to keep in mind kind of what the value of my services, right? I think of this in terms of my courses. So I created a Journey Social, which is all about becoming a freelance social media manager. It's a course that kind of goes over like more of the logistic side of that, like how to set up discovery calls, how I kind of sell myself, how I market myself, that kind of stuff. And this is like a really niche course. So this is really only for people who want to become freelance social media managers, which can't be a large percentage of the population, right? And it was also something that I felt like I hadn't seen before. I mean, I think that there are a few others out there, but there aren't a ton. And when I was really looking into like getting started freelancing, it was really hard for me. This was stuff that took me years to find just by digging through books and websites and things like that. There was no like real curated place to find everything. So therefore I know that this is a pretty valuable piece of content, at least it is to me. And so I know that I can charge a little bit higher, even though I don't, it's like super cheap, but I should be charging a little bit more than I would charge for like a general Facebook ads course, because there are a zillion Facebook ads courses out there. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't make one. I'm not saying that they're not valuable. I'm just saying they're more like a dime a dozen. So unless you have a really specific competitive advantage or value add, if you're selling a really more general product or service, you're probably going to charge it a little bit lower than you would for something that's really niche and really kind of cutting edge. And I do want to speak to that, you know, with me undercharging for my course. I'm definitely undercharging for my first course. I'm actually in the process of revamping it right now and relaunching it. It's going to relaunch at a much higher rate because I'm going to be adding a bunch of value to it. But I do want to speak to that because, you know, I'm definitely undercharging. I know that. And I think that, you know, think about when you go into a store like, you know, TJ Maxx or something that has all of these like great designer pieces, and you see one and it's like $5. So you see like a nice like contemporary designer piece for $5. I always immediately like scour the garment. Like, what is wrong with it? Does it have a stain? Is it a return? Is it like a weird size? There has to be something wrong with it, right? And I think that perceived value is really important. You don't want to charge $19 for a course. Honestly, like, I'm doing myself a disservice by doing that. And the reason that I charge it so low is because online courses weren't originally like a big part of my strategy, like my business plan. And really it was just for you guys, for the people who watch me. I wanted them to have like great resources. So I really created it for people who watched me, and I didn't expect it to be kind of as popular as it eventually became. And I started realizing if I want to do this seriously, like I really need to up the ante on it. And it doesn't mean I need to charge $5,000. I'm not Marie Forleo, okay? But definitely like $19 kind of gives off the impression like, well, there can't be that much good information in it, right? Like, I think that it's really good to have a little bit of a barrier, if you will, to your pricing, because you want people to sort of think twice and make sure that this is really something that they want to do, working with you or purchasing your course. I don't really want kind of the people who are just like randomly passing by to buy my course necessarily. So yeah, definitely charge what you're worth, and think about it from a consumer's perspective. Like, what would you be willing to charge? Do market research, you know, see what's going on in the market. And yeah, that's really how I price my products and services. It's not super scientific. I'm still learning. Like I said, with my course and everything, I'm always still learning and tweaking things as I go, but that's like the general gist of how I charge. And yeah, I hope that was helpful. I know I'm gonna get questions on this, so I invoice through Wave apps. That will be linked down below as well. And yeah, anything else that I mentioned will be listed down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I just hope it was helpful. Make sure to give me a thumbs up if it was. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my podcast, the Freelance Friday podcast. The second season just launched, and I'm answering some of your questions all about being a social media manager, starting up an LLC, and things I hate about social media. So make sure to head over to Apple Podcasts or Google Play Music to check it out. Make sure to leave links in the description box, and I'll see you over there.